Hello, everyone. This is Zach.
This is Patrick.
And this is PipeCast.
Where we pipe up about pipes and pipe down for what?
We're going to do a little breakdown of what we think that this PipeCast is going to be. Not everything is going to be very formulaic to other podcasts that you might listen to. We want to have some topics that are going to be specifically about tobacco, specifically about pipes. We want to have conversations about pipe shops that we've been to, eventually even going to a pipe shop, maybe blending in-house or different types of blends you can get in pipe shops, which is something I don't really hear too much about. Everyone knows about Esoterica or Samuel Gawith or GOPs, but what you don't hear about is really the house blends. I know Boswell has some pretty great house blends, but you don't really hear about house blends in your local pipe shop. And I'd like to eventually start going where we visit some of the places and kind of talk about some of their blends. But outside of just tobacco talk, Patrick and I, we work together. We've been friends for a while now. And we have a tendency just to kind of run rabbits all over the place. We can talk about anything from something that is on the cultural zeitgeist at the moment to philosophy to whatever we find fancy in at the moment. So I think that's a pretty good idea. We'll try to stay on target at some episodes, and some episodes I think we're just going to go wherever we want to go.
Yeah. It can always be sort of to the listener's discretion. We want to hear feedback. So at some point in our little episode descriptions, we'll have the emails if you want to email us, telling us your opinions on it. Do you like it when we run around chasing the rabbits, or do you like it when it's more straight and narrow?
Now, because of the subjective nature of tasting pipe tobacco, I think some of the times when we discuss what we're smoking, because we're always going to smoke basically to the bottom of the bowl, and that's going to kind of be about the length at which you're going to enjoy this PipeCast. So you should light up right with us as soon as you turn it on, and I bet when you get to the bottom of a bowl, you're going to be pretty much winding down on this PipeCast. So we kind of have it organized to complete at least one bowl of pipe tobacco. I like to smoke consecutive bowls, but that's an addiction.
And every now and again, there may be a bonus where we hit 2 bowls in an episode.
That's right.
Just for y'all's benefit.
But the rule of thumb is that you can sit down and calmly listen to something, maybe once a month, maybe twice a month, and kind of get an idea of where things are at in the pipe community and just kind of where we're at and what we see and, our kind of ideas of everything. But like I said, because of the nature of taste and personal preference, we're going to give a kind of a mini breakdown at the beginning of the tobacco that we're smoking, how we're smoking it, and what it is being smoked in, and just a small commentary to kind of break the ice, I think, every episode. As I said, other episodes are going to go into more specific things about tobacco, maybe more specific things about pipe tobacco, potentially even something specific about cigars. But I think a safe bet is to do an overview of the pipe tobacco that we're smoking and not go so heavily in detail, just to kind of give you a not necessarily a star rating. Maybe one day we'll be ready for that, but more of a thumbs up, thumbs down. If you can acquire it, then go ahead and get it. Yeah,
because there's so many good content creators out there right now that are giving reviews on probably a lot of what we'll be smoking. So, definitely support them.
Mm-hmm. There's plenty of channels, plenty to choose from, and, a lot more people who have a lot better things to say about tobacco than Patrick and I. I'm a 13-year smoker of the pipe. Picked up a pipe when I was about 19, and pretty much have been smoking on and off ever since. I think any pipe smoker who's been smoking as long as I have, or longer, probably can attest to the fact that with pipe smoking, you can put it down. I've put this down for years and then come back to it, where I'll just grab a pipe here or there, or it'd be nice to have a corn cob that I didn't have to care for as much, or wouldn't it be great to have a meerschaum pipe that I can smoke in consecutively, without having to worry about, burning it out like a briar pipe. So, there's that kind of back and forth that everyone has with pipe smoking that is pretty nice. So I think with that in mind, Patrick will have a kind of a different perspective on it.
Yeah. I'm just a beginner. I'll definitely bring about a little bit more questions that hopefully some of our listeners will have.
So to kick things off, today's episode is probably going to be a little bit more rambly than other episodes, as I mentioned. We'll have more specific topics of conversation. We got the old pipe dog in here, Milo, who's roaming around with us.
Yep.
And we're just going to kind of take it easy on this rainy, kind of nasty day. Little wind chime in the background, just kind of talk a little, pipe a little. So
Talk a little, pipe a lot.
Pipe a lot. So I've got a one of my favorite aromatic blends, Grouse Moor by Samuel Galwith, which is kind of a lemon zestiness, rose water flavoring. It's one of those famous Lakeland tobaccos, and I love so much. And I'm smoking it in my Meerschaum pipe that I got for Christmas. I tell you, the Meerschaum really does tame this tobacco down quite extensively. Like anytime you have something harsh or smokes wet, just throw it in a Meerschaum pipe if you've got one, and see how that tames it down. I know that I probably would never smoke something like Full Virginia Flake outside of a Meerschaum pipe, just because of its ability to really get on top of you and kind of overtake you.
And I am smoking some Squadron Leader from Samuel Galwith. We're rocking the Samuel Galwith today. And I'm smoking it in my very first briar pipe, a Peterson Killarney Shape 221. It is a bent billiard, little stubby little fella. It could almost be a nose warmer.
Could be.
Almost. Maybe just a hair long for it. What's weird is, I'm smoking it, and I'm smelling your grass more. It's sort of combining with it.
Grouse Moor is a pungent. Oh boy.
It's got a big rim nose.
It gets on top of you pretty good. And the smell is just, it's nice. I don't think it's something that, it's like, I feel like if someone is not familiar with the pipe community or aromatics or maybe even just anything outside of cigarettes and cigars and they were to smell Grouse Moor, they'd be like, that is very pleasant considering you're smoking. I think if you're a little bit more familiar, a little bit more studied on tobacco, you might not be as inclined. So if your husband who smokes or a wife who smokes and your husband or your spouse comes in and smells Grouse Moor, already used to you smoking, they might not like it as much as, say, a full cream or vanilla or caramel flavored tobacco. But out in public, people who aren't familiar with pipe tobacco seem to enjoy it. They usually say it's got kind of a incensey floral note to it.
Very floral, very herby almost. Or almost like an herbal tea kind of smell.
Mm-hmm.
Some lemongrass. My girlfriend makes this dish that has lemongrass in it and has a similar kind of smell around the house that's doing.
I think there's something to like that kind of bergamot, lemongrass, oriental, Indian flavoring that sort of, has found its way into English blends. And it should, because England, they're a huge part in spice trading and just in general trade. I mean, so like you would have figured those influences would find their way into the tobacco and embed themselves in it. I mean, even Latakia and Oriental tobaccos, literally in the name Oriental, have a sort of incensey, smoky aroma that is just so nice with to blend with a more of a harsher Virginia and a kind of a peppery Perique. Of course, you're a vapor fan.
It's what it seems. I seem to be a vapor and burley. That's what I seem to be caring for these days. My go-tos currently are Haunted Bookshop and I like Stratford. I don't know if it's a go-to yet, but I like it.
Stratford's good. I think I still prefer Fillmore. If we're talking about within GOP's line and specifically a vapor, I think Fillmore has it tastes more like plums to me,
Oh,
and I enjoy that more.
I need to get some then because I haven't had Fillmore. Stratford, I only have 2 GLPs and I hadn't even cracked into one of them, and that's Gaslight.
Now, Gaslight's a plug, I
Mhm.
believe.
Yeah, it's 2. It's like 2 1-ounce plugs. Yeah, I got that one, and I got another. I guess it's a crumb. You know how plum pudding comes as a crumble cake, but it sort of looks like it's been sliced into 3s or
Right,
4s.
right.
I have Cornell and Dill's 5 o'clock shadow, which I haven't tried yet, and it's like the full brownie, like it's not sliced. So I guess it's a plug, but I think they say it's a crumble cake too. But it's like Gaslight, but just not cut in half.
Huh.
That's why I had to get bigger canning jars just for it.
I believe Gaslight is a fairly strong sort of after dinner style
Yeah, I think so.
English.
It's stout, just the 10 notes.
I know plum pudding has that kind of aspect to it, where it's sort of the fruit cake of tobacco since everything is in it, and then it's so overwhelming. I like, it's interesting because I think that there's something about American blended tobaccos, pipe tobaccos specifically, because I think everyone and their mother loves Esoterica. You can tell because it's never stocked. If you're not familiar with what I'm talking about the Arango cigar distributed Esoterica Tabacchiano by J.F. Germain and Sons. They are specifically blended, I think, for the American market. I don't believe you can get Esoterica blends in the United Kingdom, but those blends, I mean, I would assume that with the equipment and the way maybe they're processing it, it could have something to do with it. I think maybe the way it has been cased or topped may have a way of kind of marrying the flavor in a more uniform way when you're blending. But there is something to the tobacco. I know that you and I just smoked in soda bed recently,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and we'll probably do more of that later. But it's not quite like any tobacco you've ever had,
Yeah.
and there's a smoothness and a characteristic of that smoothness that just it does uniformly find the whole bowl. When I find it with American blends, especially ones with the way they sort of haphazardly blend or maybe haphazardly cut, or like have a ribbon cut or something like that. The interesting thing about the American, and this isn't a knock, the inconsistency in the way it is cut or something or topped, maybe the bowl for American blend tobaccos absolutely is not the same throughout.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you've got this wave of smokiness and this sort of grassy Virginia creaminess, and then those get pushed aside and you have the incensey like Oriental. But because they clump in such different ways, like the aspects of the entire bowl are so different throughout. Now I'm wondering if like the way in which other tobaccos, maybe British tobaccos, or I don't really notice it quite as much outside of the English blended tobaccos. But I will say this, like Scandinavian Tobacco Company has a pretty good job of keeping a uniform bowl throughout. Cornell and Deal, as long as their blends have sort of a high proofing, like 50% Latakia plus, like then it seems to be more uniform. GLPs to me is all over the board. Like I'll smoke his stuff and I don't know why, but it just and granted it's blended by Cornell and Deal,
Yeah.
but like a true Cornell and Deal like Haunted Bookshop. Haunted Bookshop has you don't 100% know if you're getting into the Burley side, the Virginia side, or where you're going to be at the end of the bowl because it just feels so wildly inconsistent. Now that could be just me. Maybe I'm smoking too hard. I mean, I usually try to take my time. I'm sort of I love tobacco no matter what. And it's not a complaint. It just seems so strange that like it's as if the tobaccos haven't really married or fused up. That I can distinctively tell the difference between one or the other.
I wonder if it has anything to do with how long they sit before they are sent out. Because I'm wondering, like, just comparing the tins between a Cornell and Deal and a GLP and a Seattle Pipe Club compared the tins, what they're packaged in, to your Samuel Galwith, your Peterson, your Esoterica. Like, I wonder if those tins allow it to sit longer on the shelf, like in the warehouses or where they were packaged.
Or baled or pressed or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, if they're allowed to sit and sort of, because I've heard that's what happens on aged tobaccos. The different tobaccos meld together and get what you said earlier, marry themselves together with age. So I wonder if that has something to do with it, because that is one thing. Even though as much as I like the way Cornell and Dill tin theirs, I think they're pretty cool looking.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I've broken the little part that you use to crack them open,
Mm-hmm.
I've broken 2 or 3 opening up Cornell and Dill, but I do like them. But just from looking at them, you can't tell me that tin will keep something as fresh as a Samuel Galwith tin or Peterson tin. The standard like gold circle.
Vacuum sealed across the board and just in like a wax paper underneath. I don't know. Maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe that vacuum sealing, and someone's going to probably say like, well, C&D are vacuum sealed as well, and I'm sure they are.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's something to that, but like,
again, the material of the tin it comes in.
Right. I just it just seems
thinner.
like, because I don't hear a kind of a vacuum suction when you open up a Cornell and Dill or anything like. I mean, I could be wrong.
It could be there. It could just be hidden in the cracking.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, again, it's like thin, like aluminum or thin.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the material feels like, as far as the tin and the top.
I mean, if you open any type of European, circular tin or square tin, you're going to hear that like kind of satisfying, like, I mean, it sounds like you're opening up, a soda of some sort, and you just have that sound that comes out, and that's how I know that I just, when I hear that, I'm more confident in what has been blended for me, because I feel like that however long it was under vacuum seal, that those tobaccos are slowly starting to melt a little bit more and a little bit more.
That may be what it is. Because I'm trying to think, is there any American blender that distributes them in that more traditional style tin? Like I said, Seattle Pipe Club, it's just like a bigger version of what Cornell and Dill uses. Mm-hmm. And of course, Cornell and Dill and GLPs come from the same.
I think the Standard Tobacco Company, who distributes Bingle Slices and Hearth and Home, which I think is like owned by Pipes and Cigar. Okay, don't quote me on that. I think the Standard Tobacco Company and the Pennsylvania Tobacco Company, which owns Pipes and Cigars, are 2 different companies. So, but whoever distributes Hearth and Home blends, which would be the Russoulette blended tobaccos that sort of mimic or mirror Old Balk and Sobrani blends, and I think he actually blended the Standard Tobacco Company's Bingle Slices, but he had made another blend for Hearth and Home.
Yes.
But it's in that Marquee series. If you guys are wanting to get a hold of them.
So if we got one of those, we could see if the American, because it's American, right? You said. So if we got one of those, cracked it open, compared, that could be we could have figured it out. Mm-hmm. That it's just the what it's in, what it's distributed.
If not, then it's just whatever's being put on it, on the tobacco.
And too, I mean, I've jarred every tobacco that I bought. I just went ahead and jarred it, let it sit there for a while. Maybe it'll start, maybe, and most all I have is American blended stuff. The only thing I don't have is Bingle Slices. Did you say it's American?
Mm-hmm. It's an American, and it's in that tin too.
So, see, I have Bingle Slices and I have a couple Petersons, but I think everything else I have is Cornell and Dill and GLPs, and so I can, we can test that theory in a year or 2.
Yeah,
we still got some of it, and because I'm probably going to keep a good rotation of Haunted Bookshop. That's just guaranteed.
I think everyone has that one thing.
Yeah.
I'm fearful that the tobaccos that I personally like to smoke regularly are the ones that are going to be hard to find, which means I'm going to have to expand my palate. Now, don't get me wrong. Quiet Night by GLP's and Chelsea Morning are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
They're also in threat of being created post 2007.
Chelsea Morning is?
Yeah, both of them are.
Damn.
So I think Quiet Night and Chelsea Morning are both going to have to go through that FDA shenanigans.
Because I heard you talk about Chelsea Morning. Okay, you kept talking about it, and then I had it. And I was like, oh my goodness. I really liked it.
Mm-hmm. Chelsea Morning is a great all-day smoke. And because it has such a, I think, Oriental forward base, I personally love that about it. Where, you just really, I don't know, I think I just like that kind of open, incensey aroma. Can't explain it, but that's what I taste.
I wonder if Star of the East is going to be, because I like Star of the East pretty well. I know that'll be a topic for a different day, but I wonder if talking about the comparisons of it in Commonwealth.
Yeah.
But I wonder if Star of the East will be subject to the FDA stuff.
Could be.
Pretty much, I'm afraid of anything, even though I know Cornell and Dill's been around a long time. Anything Cornell and Dill, I just go ahead and I'm like, oh man, I wonder if it's going to stay. But, well, that's it. We hope you enjoyed it and come back for more.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening in, and we'll talk to you next time on PipeCast.